abide in my love. And then the following, I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. Lately, I'm discovering that the idea of abiding in love and thus experiencing joy is what I really seem to need these days. So very, very much. Maybe because it's the end of the appointment year and the high holy days are all sort of catching up with me, or maybe it's all the dissension in politics and in education in my own beloved United Methodist Church that just has me really searching for love and for joy. Maybe it's hanging out with friends in challenging times. Maybe it's spending time talking with leaders in the church trying to figure out when and how and who and where and why we need to reach new people with the love of God, both here on this campus and in our new campus in Vail. Now, I don't think I really need a reason to be needing to love or to try to figure it all out. I don't think any of us do. So I'm discovering also that it's really easy to just pass up this very simple invitation. Abide in my love and experience joy. And yet, we do, don't we? Because we construct expectations for said love and joy, as if Jesus didn't mean it, as if Jesus had set requirements in mind, as if Jesus set certain criteria for loving and being loved and letting that love lead to joy. It's so simple, and yet it's also so complicated, isn't it? Because basically, I think we often distrust the truth of love and its resulting joy. We suspect its simplicity, and as a result, we can reject the very gift, the very compassion, the very love we need. We need love. We need to be loved. We need to feel love. We need to express love. And I believe that's at the heart of what it means to be human. And I believe that that's why God made us, approached us, and chooses to be in relationship with us, so that we can break forth and experience the joy that comes from seeing ourselves through God's eyes. One stream of psychological research has discovered that infants see themselves mirrored in their caregiver's eyes. This gaze begins to form mirror neurons that are thought to be the physiological basis for empathy. So babies and children who receive loving, mirroring, and modeling can grow into adults who are capable of tenderness and closeness with other beings and with God. Author and theologian James Finley sees the brain activity shown by parts of the brain lighting up during moments when a baby and a parent are mirroring each other are similar to what happens in the exchange of the divine and human gazes. When God gazes at us and we gaze at God, we light up, and God lights up with the joy of being recognized by the one created in God's own image and likeness for the very sake of this recognition. It's a state of visceral, emotional, and intimate communion, a tender recognition of oneness that we might simply rest in it, resting in us, resting in this communion in each other, as each other and through each other, beyond each other in this endless interconnectedness of life itself, of love. So healthy relationships and spirituality lead us beyond the human level of just feeling special and loved to allow this same divine mirroring with every living thing. So it's not just people who love you that you can return the gaze to, but it's the way that you see everything. The grasshopper in the grass, the flower on the bush, the blue sky, even the would-be enemy. To love demands a transformation of consciousness, a transformation that has been the goal of all the saints and mystics and gurus from time everlasting. And the transformation of consciousness is simply this. We need to be liberated from ourselves, set free from our own stuff, which is done by somehow becoming and interacting with and connecting with the other. One of my favorite all-time scriptures, in fact, if you said, what's your favorite scripture, 9 times out of 10, this would be my quote, is Paul's statement in Galatians, I live no longer, not I, but with the life of Christ who lives in me. And friends, that's not some sort of fantastic religious poetry meant only for the very holy. It's the heart of the human experience and divine love. You see, what we allow ourselves to gaze upon is what we eventually become. After all, as Cynthia Bourgault says, everything that is tough and brittle shatters. Everything that is cynical rots. The only way to endure is to forgive over and over, to give back that openness and possibility for new beginning, which is the very essence of love itself. The Jewish scholar Martin Buber said that the modern world has mostly entered into an I-it relationship with reality, when we were in fact created for a constant I-thou relationship. And I-thou relationship means that we're actually seeing another person for who they are and just celebrating the gift of their presence. It's an attitude of reverence and humility and mutuality in which we encounter people and things and events as subject to subject, as knowing and being known, as giving and receiving, taking insofar as we're also willing to surrender. And in this fully mature state, those in I-thou relationships refuse to objectify anyone or anything, but always allow things and people to be a fellow subject, even those they might totally disagree with or even dislike. So we abide, live into, connect with, sink down into, surround ourselves with love. And that leads to joy and contentment and acceptance and fulfillment. So today I'm going to invite you into a time of mirroring, of seeing God's presence in someone or some creature this day. Now, there's a lot of ways you could do that. Some of you might have had experience with the Hindu phrase namaste. So you can put your hands together and you can bow to someone that you love, and you can just say, the divine in me sees the divine in you, which is what namaste means. If that seems a little quirky to you, you could use a more Christian way of saying that, and you could say, the Christ in me sees the Christ in you, which is saying the same thing. Or if you just feel totally uncomfortable saying those words out loud, just carry them in your heart. But as you gaze into someone's eyes today, or you see something that's beautiful, let those words come into your mind and your heart, where you recognize the divine spark in something other than you and other than God. So bring this loving gaze and an inner stance of humility and recognition and mirroring to everyone that you encounter today. Simply abide, Jesus says, abide in my love. No tests, no achievements, no competition, no judgments, no self-improvement projects, no answers, no anything that you think, you imagine, you decide, would preclude you from God's love. Because, friends, there is nothing. Just abide in love. Together, mutually, communally. And then watch that love migrate into true joy, the joy that Jesus desires for every single one of us. A joy that is contagious and breaks forth at surprising moments, bringing with it the sense of wonder and of awe. It's my prayer that the church may be one of those places for you, one of the places where you can truly abide in love and true joy is experienced. After all, this Sunday, you may be that person for someone else, that person who brings a sense of love and joy, who speaks the assurance of joy maybe in the midst of true and palpable pain. I find it really interesting that the Greek words for grace and for joy have the same root. So joy may very well be that feeling of grace, the emotion of grace, even the response to grace. Joy, you see, is that indescribable sense when you find yourself experiencing abundant grace, when you feel accepted and loved by God and by others. Friends, joy is an affirmation. It's the guarantee of God's grace when all that is good can seem so far away. It's the security of God's love when it appears that love is nowhere to be felt, especially from those you thought would love you. And it's the hope that even in the darkest places of separation, God's abiding and our abiding in God is promised and present. And the joy will come. Abide in love and choose joy. Our joy is complete because the joy of Christ resides within us. And we cannot help but break forth and dare to dance again simply because all of a sudden we realize how much we are loved by God. And as we mirror that love and as we mirror Christ to others, we have the same assurance of knowing that we dance with God and with one another just as all of creation does naturally. And we become one. And all of God's people say,